But why do conspiracies pop in a unique way in American culture now, especially on digital media? For instance,
because I think
Tim Dillon is going to do well. If you were someone who was talking to me about why the government isn't talking to us about UAPs, you'd do 1.5 times as well. Why?
Sure. Yes, maybe.
Before Tim Dillon answers that question that Chris Cuomo just posed to Tim Dillon, I just want to say that every time, the more and more I watch Chris Cuomo's podcast with Tim Dillon, I think that I develop a new level of annoyance and disdain for Chris Cuomo. Tim Dillon is once again going to annihilate, dismantle, slam, and destroy Chris Cuomo because of the silly questions Chris Cuomo is asking. Look at what Chris Cuomo just said to Tim Dillon. Chris Cuomo just said, if Tim Dillon does a podcast about the government not talking to us about UAPs, there's going to be, so it's going to blow up basically. And what Chris Cuomo just did was, make a strong attack on the audience and the American people. It's like, okay, not strong attack, right? Like he just criticized the audience and the American people. Everybody doesn't care about aliens. People want to know why, why there wasn't any water for, the California fires and how it was handled that way. What's going on within the government? People want to know why we're getting ready to get involved with wars that we shouldn't be going to. Like, I think those are the bigger questions. Or who's corrupt in our government? So while Chris Cuomo tries to belittle the American people, the audience as well, Tim Dillon is going to destroy and dismantle him again.
I mean, I think that the problem with this conversation about experts is that the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal are supposed to be diametrically opposed on a lot of things. Their position is very different.
Yeah.
But really, they come down on the same side of most issues. The Washington Post, same thing. ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. All of these organizations have never really challenged like the dominance of the financial sector in American politics, the trade, immigration, all of these things, the militarism, all of these things have been pretty consistent. That experts on all sides of the spectrum, Republicans and Democrats, have all come down on the same side of a lot of these issues. And a lot of their kids go to the same schools, and a lot of them belong to the same social clubs, and a lot of them have gone to the same schools. And it feels like to a lot of Americans who feel like they were sold out, or that the economic system doesn't work for them, or that their concerns about immigration are constantly called racist, or their concerns about what their kids are being taught in school, they're constantly accused of being transphobic or like some fundamentalists. A lot of those people feel that they're losing control of their lives and their communities because people that are supposed to have all of these varying viewpoints have actually landed on the same side of many of these big issues that were never voted on and that the American people never had a say in. So the question about the conspiracies, and I think we all know some conspiracies are valid and some are absurd, but the question of all of that seems to arise from the same place, which is that Americans are trying to figure out how this system is so wildly corrupt and it no longer serves their interests. And they're seeing a lot of patterns, and some of the patterns are crazy, right? Like, oh, it's the Jews or the earth is flat or whatever. But then some of the patterns are very, very understandable, where they go, it does seem like there are a lot of interlocking power factions that have each other's back. Whether you want to call it a deep state, or you want to call it a permanent government, or you want to call it the corporate state, which is the marriage of government and big business, whatever you want to call it, most Americans are seeing that their lives and livelihoods are not being prioritized by this kind of amorphous blob of very wealthy, well-connected people. And
that is a very good explanation that Tim Dillon is giving, one that Chris Cuomo, I'm sure, is going to try to rebut, which shows how much of a sleazeball he is. That's exactly what I said. People want to know, why is this not connecting? Things aren't making sense. And the press is supposed to be against the government. Like, the press is supposed to be the one telling us, like, this is why it doesn't make sense. This is why it doesn't make sense. Why do we have this term conspiracy theory? Why do we have to even say it? Why is it that regular folk, like, just such as myself, which, by the way, I love making these videos. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Have to go and figure it out for themselves and try to see what they can find out, and then, you know, come talk to you about it, which, by the way, again, I love doing this. But, and well, here's the even bigger thing. And then when I do figure it out, right, then I get called, you know, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Nobody's talking to the American people. The corporate media is not talking to the American people. We already know who owns it. So it's like, when do the American people get to be prioritized? And that's what Tim Dillon is saying. And watch Chris Cuomo. I know he's going to come back with a sleazeball answer.
Whether those people are simply united by class interest, whether some of them are being blackmailed, whether some of them just have ruthless career ambition, whatever it is, they seem to be on the same side of all these issues. I think that's where a lot of this conspiracy stuff comes from.
Why is it that people on the fringe right seem to engage in conspiracies more? Is it a coincidence that Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk are...
So I definitely discussed that part of this question. I did do that part in the episode. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. All right.
Search had been paid for, but that guy was not working...
MI6.
Was not working for Clinton when he did it. But in fairness to him, he never said that everything in there was fact. He worked the situation that he was paid to work.
But a lot of that stuff was used and peddled by the media to convince people that Donald Trump was an agent of a foreign government. That does a ton of damage to democracy. It does a ton of damage.
Well, but here's the thing.
It does a ton of damage to foreign policy. Because right now, just what we skipped over to, that they're talking about the Russiagate stuff. Because Chris was about to ask about the guy, but I covered that in 2 episodes ago, whatever. So, but, you know, the Russiagate stuff, we forget what it did to foreign policy. I mean, diplomacy is out the window with America anyway and other countries. But, I mean, like, again, it's just this constant propaganda everywhere.
And again, these are observations of things that were true. I've also never heard of anybody who said what Donald Trump said about wanting more WikiLeaks, about wanting Russia to do more of the things. If they were interfere more. And, you know, when you say things that,
of course,
you are asking for scrutiny. And if you think it's just started with Trump, you remember Gary Hart. Gary Hart looks at the media and says, enough with the questions about me fucking around on my wife. You want to know what I do? Follow me.
Trump says a lot.
They follow him and they bust him on monkey business.
Trump says a lot of wild stuff, but I think the part of the issue, I think the way the media has viewed Trump as he's this existential threat, and in many of their minds, I believe they believe that this is true, who has to be vanquished at all costs, even if we're engaging in dishonesty or we're inflating something. I mean, it started with he's a Russian asset. It ended with he inflated the price of a condo. I mean, the amount of things they tried to get the guy on. They had the full power of the federal government. They had Robert Mueller. They had a very
they had Mueller, who's a Republican, a lifelong one, and we learned way too late that he was way off his game, and it was actually David Weissman who was running that investigation. He is not a lifelong Republican, and he definitely wanted to get Trump, which is why they had that list of potential charges at the end.
Right. So we're not going to really go over the Trump Russiagate and relitigate all of that right now. What I will say, though, and that's the thing, is that we always stay stuck in the past, and that's why we never learn from past mistakes, right? So staying stuck in the past right now, we're going to relitigate. You know, they could talk about whatever, right? But the point is, there's actually a new level now, or what people aren't paying attention to, or maybe we'll start paying attention to as things get worse, such as like Trump giving amnesty to illegal immigrants. Trump just gave amnesty to illegal immigrants, right? I don't hate the people, but is this what y'all voted for? Okay. You'll have a class of influencers who are going to either not talk about it or water it down. That's what they do. And then if you come and you say, hey, this isn't what I voted for or whatever, then they try to tell you don't love the country. This is the new type of talking point that's happening. So we're on a different level with the propaganda. Yes, don't ever believe in one man so much that you think that he is above corruption, right?